Well, hey there, everybody. Happy Sunday. Yo, 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 Randy. Oh, this is great because it's very meta. I can actually ask Jeff how the levels are, and he can tell me in real time. Jeff, how are the levels?
Sound pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. That was awesome. Oh, man, this is going to be a good Sunday for many reasons, not the least of which is that my assistant Gonzo is here. He's my cat. He's sitting on a chair staring at me right now, wondering what the hell I'm doing. Probably wondering why I'm not rubbing his tummy. But that pretty much, is a metaphor for life. It's a beautiful day here in the Hudson Valley, albeit a bit cold, 46 degrees. And after the show today, I'm going to go off to my son's college and see his end-of-year concert. It's a candlelight holiday concert. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. Excited about that, but also excited that this is episode 68 of Logic Live. We're going to go over the image node with our friend Jeff Kyle, and we're going to have a preview of One Frame of White. So excited for this. We've got 8 amazing entries to show everybody. Hello, Adam. Hello, Miriam. Hello, Antonis. Josh Lawrence, how are you, my friend? Valentine. Kieran Baxter is in the house. And I see Renee. Oh, this is great. Whew. Man, Jeff and I were going through things like up until 5 seconds before live. That's how I like it, though. All right, Randy. Actually, I got this hooked up to my Stream Deck today, Randy, so I think this is going to work out well. Here we go. See? This is what happens when you hook it up to the Stream Deck. It works perfectly every time. Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back to Logic Live. It's so great to see you all here. And hello, Ralph. Hello, Matt McDonald. This is wonderful. All right, let's get started. Here we go with the slideshow. Like I said, this is episode 68. 68 of Logic Live. We're going to go over the image node workflow with our friend Jeff. And we're going to have a preview of this year's One Frame of White entries. This episode of Logic Live is brought to you by Synesys.io, solutions development, integration, and support, supporting flame artists since 1997. Thank you, Synesys, for everything. And a huge thank you to our friends at AJA. They make the best video gear in the business. If you need anything in the way of video gear for your flame, for streaming, check them out at aja.com. And if you need tech support, call Jack. Jack Horrocks, ladies and gentlemen. You can reach him at jack@flametech.com.au for any of your flame or networking, storage, or custom build needs. Jack's amazing. I believe he's going to be joining us today here on YouTube or in the patrons chat afterwards. And Jack's also offered support for the first place winner of One Frame of White. A little bit more about that later. So thank you, Jack, and welcome to the Logic team. Also want to remind everyone that our friends at Wacom have offered up a 10% off discount for Logic members. That's for all of their Intuos Pro tablets. If you go to bit.ly/Wacom Logic and use the code LOGIC10 at checkout, you can save yourself 10% through the end of the year. And of course, the Logic TV discount code, if you didn't get a chance to take advantage of the Black Friday specials and the Cyber Monday specials they were having at Boris FX, our Logic TV discount is still available. Save 15% on any Boris FX product, standalone or subscription, when you use the code LOGIC-15 at checkout. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, in case you haven't seen me, we've got merch. The Logic hats are in. They're in stock. Thank you, Brooks Tomlinson, for the suggestion. We got winter hats in black and white. And now we got baseball hats in black and white. That would be the dad cap on the left and the snapback on the right. I did not know that there were two breeds of baseball hats, but there are, and we have them both available at the merch store. If you go to logic.tv and click the merch link, you can grab those and save yourself 10%. We've extended the discount straight through to the end of the year. Use the code LOGIC10 at checkout. I want to give a big shout out to our friends on Patreon. Randy, the list keeps growing. In fact, this is kind of a major announcement here, ladies and gentlemen. We are up to 99 patrons. Just think, one of you out there could be our 100th patron. And I'm going to throw a Logic hat to the 100th patron when they sign up. All right, little incentive there. Head on over to patreon.com/LogicTV. We have 3 different tiers of sponsorship there that get you different kinds of merch, different discounts, access to exclusive content like the Patrons Q&A that we do after the show. We're doing one with Jeff on the image node. If you want to get in on that, just become a patron. I'll send you the link. And you can become a patron at patreon.com/LogicTV. Wait, Randy's telling me we already have 100. All right. Well, Randy, get me that person's name and their hat size. Speaking of Randy, let's give you the latest statistics on the forum. We're up to 984 users on the forum. That was as of yesterday. Still rocking 140 page views a month, 60 new posts a day, response time in less than an hour. And we're up to 223 users on Discord. The Discord server has taken off. It's been great. If you haven't checked it out yet, definitely do. Go to Logik TV, click the Discord link, and join the conversation. It's a place for real-time chat, for screen sharing. We actually had a couple of artists just share their screen while they were working. They were working on like non-NDA stuff that they were freely able to share, and it was just kind of great. It would be like, it's like if we were all like piling into the same flame bay and just kind of geeking out over how we handle the different tasks, and just a great way to be social. We just opened up a Python channel for some great Python content, so head on over to Discord, check it out, be a part of the conversation. And let's remind everybody about our new Logik Academy classes that we have available. We have 3. One of them you're going to hear about in a little bit, so I'm going to zoom right through it. The image node, done by our good friend Jeff Kyle. Then there's 8-Minute Aces by Randy McEntee. Color management can be a very, very like imposing, scary, ominous thing. Randy makes it easy. So definitely give this video a shout if you're getting into the whole world of color management, and Aces can be your friend in as little as 8 minutes. Randy also did an intro to NDI with everybody working remotely, and it doesn't look like in some capacity that's ever going away. NDI is a great way to stream your flame right out of the box. And Randy shows all kinds of additional little tips and tricks, how to stream to Apple devices, to Apple TV, to your iPad, how to do the virtual audio wiring. So kudos to Randy because he put a lot of time into this one, and it's fairly awesome. I've used it myself. That's the image node, 8-Minute Aces, an intro to NDI. These are sponsored by Autodesk, and we want to give them a thank you. They're available at Logik TV for free. We add them on. These are added to the Connected Conform one that Jeff did, and Randy and I have 3 more coming, probably at the top of the year, but we're getting ready to announce those. Very exciting stuff going on at Logik Academy. Speaking of learning, the latest from the Flame Learning channel is something I didn't know, and that is there's a way to keep your timeline effects when it renders if you export in the foreground or background. Check it out at youtube.com/user/flame-howtos. That's the Flame Learning channel. Thank you, Grant K. And we're going to see Grant next week because he's going to be my co-host for the big One Frame of White show. And hopefully he got measured for his tux. I'm not wearing a tux, but I'm hoping that Grant got measured for a tux. And that brings us to One Frame of White 2021, ladies and gentlemen. The day has almost arrived. The entries are in. The judges have spoken. Now it's time for the community to speak. We're going to have a little preview a little bit later today, and then I'm going to open up community voting on the forum. Just a reminder that first place, what everybody's competing for, is a Dell Precision 7760 mobile workstation, fully loaded, with 8 terabytes of NVMe and free support from Jack Horrocks. That's a $12,000 laptop, ladies and gentlemen. Second place is a 1-year subscription to Flame from our friends at Autodesk. Third place is a Thunderbolt 3 12G SDI and HDMI 2.0 output box. It's called the T-Tap Pro from AJA. Fourth place is a permanent license of Mocha Pro OFX. We have a bunch of other prizes listed up on the website. Stay tuned again for a preview at the end of the show today. It's going to be awesome. And that does it for the slideshow. So I'm going to go back here. Hey, there I am. And I'm going to bring on my friend Jeff. Jeff Kyle, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Great to be here. Hello. Whoa.
Hello. Yeah, I know, right? I've got all these buttons now on the Stream Deck. So, like instinctually, for like I don't know, 67 times, I've moved my cursor and clicked the UI. But now I'm really trying to, I'm trying to be a little more professional. So I'm going to throw this to you to take us through a little preview of the image workflow, right? The image node workflow.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We
Sweet.
have that tutorial that we released on YouTube. And really the goal today is not to redo the tutorial. That's definitely not the point. The point today is just to kind of open the dialogue to the community, see if they have any questions about it, just kind of talk about it. But kind of before we jump in, I'll just give you a quick, brief rundown of where I'm coming from with this workflow. My history in it is pretty much just that a couple of years ago, the company I was working for, they heard that Autodesk was kind of expanding their color tool set in the form of the image node and the effects tab. and they were a studio that kind of did it all, but they mostly focus on color and finishing. And I was a rising flame artist, and they saw me, they saw the tool set, and they thought, oh, we should put those two together. So they introduced me to a guy named Alex Arce, who kind of stops by every couple months, and we work
Who we
together
love.
to kind of, yeah, we love Alex. We fleshed out the tool set. Um, I worked with him. He was my like liaison between me and the dev team, and we figured out how to make color grading work for Flame. Not that I was like at the forefront, but we were just kind of problem solving. It was a lot of fun, and it was a great opportunity. But with that in mind, I kind of spent a lot of time with the image node and learned how it worked, how to make it work for me. And even though today I'm not necessarily doing color grading every day, I have spent a lot of time with it, and I know how it works. And I have a couple of short films under my belt. One of which may or may not be in Sundance this year, which is exciting. Which is very exciting.
May or may not.
Yeah. But
Sweet.
again, the goal is definitely not to redo the tutorial, and conveniently I've used some different footage, so it's not the same stuff, so that's good. But definitely going to be going much faster than I'm comfortable with, so I apologize in advance for just breezing through this stuff. If there's anything that you want me to clarify, you viewers, you wonderful viewers, happy to clarify stuff. But for the most part, I'm just going to be going so darn fast so we can get to the point where I'm just showing off what it looks like to use it.
Excellent. Well, let's get underway. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, just throw them in the chat on YouTube, and we'll get them
Please
to Jeff.
do.
Fire away, my
Please
friend.
do. So here we go. We have I have several conforms just in case we want to talk about how to handle multiple conforms. But for the most part, we're talking about the image node, which you can find in a couple of different ways. It's I like to see it as a timeline effects thing, but you can also find it in batch. Just another node. Oops, getting ahead of ourselves. So you can find it image node and batch here, but we're going to be focusing more on the timeline. So in the timeline, there's two places you can find it. There's the regular image node here in the effects tab area. Sorry, the timeline effects tab. And then there's the green image node. Definitely worth mentioning that the green one happens before any timeline effects. So if you have a time warp, if you have any timeline effects, the green one is happening before, which we'll talk about later. Very important to know the difference between those two. But for now, once you just jump into the image node, you'll see that it's the same wherever you go. Pretty straightforward user interface. Sorry, I had a couple of things up from before. But it's a little bit different from what you might be used to seeing in other parts of Flame. It's not your average node, that's for sure. It's built on and based on the action node. So if you're familiar with action, uh, then you'll be familiar with some stuff that you're seeing here. So if I press tilde, you'll see that there's a schematic, just like action has a schematic. Um, I like to see it as a like mini version of action because action actually does everything that the image node does. It's just there are some things that are limited for good reason to kind of focus you on the what the intent of the image node is, which is I would argue chiefly color grading and maybe beauty work and just ironing out those two features. But just straight out of the gate, you can see that there's our viewer here. There's something up in the top left called the HUD that we'll touch on in a second. And then if you look down, there's some keying areas here, and then there's the master grade tools here. The master grade is the matchbox shader that you start off with. If we look at the schematic for a second, I just want to definitely, we're going to go fast, but I need to explain this because I think it's the most important part of the whole image node tool set, and that is this selective workflow. Selective started out in action, but they're kind of like the bread and butter for the image node here. It starts you out with this surface. So if you're familiar with action, then you know action is based off of surfaces. That's, again, surfaces are definitely the bread and butter of action, but the selective workflow is the bread and butter of the image node. So this surface here, you'll always find it in the image node, only one. You pretty much do nothing to it. The key is what's connected to it here. So mostly these selectives. So what is a selective? The way I like to describe it is a selective selects part of your image. That's the best way to describe it, I think. So you have selective one here. I have it selected. So I'm just going to make a G mask. G mask is made. And now when I change the color, it's only changing the color in that area. So it's only affecting that part of the image. That's the easiest way to describe what a selective is. So you can have a G mask that's isolating the selective. You can have a key that's isolating the selective. So it's only affecting the sky here because I selected the blue. You can blur that. A couple of different types of keyers, but the key here is that a selective is selecting part of the image. The next important part that goes part and parcel with that would be this primary layer here. The primary is what the keyer is looking at. So that's just important if you make any changes to this primary layer, like for instance, I can make it very yellow, and then when I go to key something here in this first selective here, yeah, I'll change this to diamond keyer. When I choose this area here, it's making it yellow because I changed it to yellow here in the primary grade. So if I reset that, then my key is then set to the yellow of the these wheat things. Because anyway, important side note to know: you want to start working on your first selective if you don't want to change what the keying is looking at, and that's the primary grade. But moving on, the next thing that I want to cover would be how to change these selective matchbox shaders here. It starts you out with the master grade, but that's not the only one that you can use. A very common one would be the A2 Beauty. That's really the beauty matchbox shader. And you can change the shader a couple of different ways. So we're back in the default user interface here. So the first way I would say is that you go to the shader tab, change shader, gives you a nice list. A2 Beauty. Now we can mess with our beauty settings. Next way would be to space click on this grid of numbers here that we haven't mentioned yet, but we're about to. So space click, you can choose another shader that way. Next way would be this plus icon. Choose a different shader that way. And the last way, if we go back to the schematic and see all of our wonderful mess of matchbox shaders we've made, you can add a shader just the way that you're used to from Action, which is just dragging it out from the bin here. So that's how you change your shaders. The next little tool set we'll talk about is some, like, I'll call them workflow enhancers. That's how I describe them. Oh, the search as well. John, you're absolutely right. I don't use that search enough as I should. I don't even remember how you do it. But yeah, that's a good one, John. That's a good point.
F11? Oh, it doesn't matter.
F11? Oh boy.
No. Oh no, that's backwards.
F12.
There we go. F12.
There you go. That's pretty useful. It's funny, like you're set in your ways for too long, and then it's hard to train yourself to do something new. Funny story. It's funny. We should bring that up. I'll mention that in a second. It's part of these workflow enhancers. So this is our default user interface. If we switch up to like a 2-up view, we can get things like the scopes for if you're color grading. That's down here, the scopes button. And then maybe if we go into a 3-up view, we can get things like the manager. That's another workflow enhancer. The manager, it's funny. For the longest time, I didn't use the manager. Because the history of it, and I mentioned this in the tutorial, the history of it is really, it was introduced as a way to get people to not have to switch to the schematic, because a lot of the traditional colorists who are learning the image node for the first time, they see the schematic and they get scared because it's so new and different, and they're not used to the node workflow that we're all used to. So the schematic was kind of a solution to that. And I said, okay, yeah, I'm used to the schematic world, so I don't really need to worry about the manager. But then I'm a little embarrassed to say, but I was preparing for this session today, and I was like going through some stuff, and I was realizing that one of my, oh man, this is slow because I have so many darn nodes. One of the things that I do all the time when I'm working is just like, I have this G mask here, for instance, and let's say I have a master grade on it and I'm working. One of the things that I'm doing all the time to be able to see the image better is hiding that G mask, but then I need to like modify the G mask, like blur it. And I was like hiding the G mask and revealing the G mask and modifying the G mask. And it's just this dance, as I described in the tutorial, of constantly hiding and showing it, modifying it. But what the manager does is it allows you to keep the viewer up and select different things that you need to select, because it's kind of hard to select them without going either to the schematic or to bring back that HUD in the top. So the manager is a pretty darn good solution to
that's really a great tip,
being
Jeff,
able to.
I'll tell you, when they introduced the manager a couple of versions ago, I looked at it and went, well, this is for people who aren't comfortable with the schematic. I am comfortable with the schematic, so thank you, manager. It's really nice meeting you, and I'm never going to use it again. But when you bring up that it eliminates the need of having to, like, tilde or tab or whatever your hotkey is, to show the schematic and hide the schematic. Great tip. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to breeze through some other quick things that we haven't talked about yet, it's just so the main idea. Let's go to a different shot just so we can get something fresh. So we have this new fresh shot of wheat. So we have our first selective here. The way that the selective works, the image node works, the selective workflow is you have like your G masks that you're using to modify the image. Like I have selective one here. Let's say we're messing with the sky. So I'm messing with the sky. There you go. The sky's blue. Next selective. Let's add a vignette. I'm going to make a G mask that's huge, and I'm going to work on the outside, and I'm going to make a vignette there. Next, let's maybe change the color of the wheat. Let's select that wheat and make it maybe less yellow, more I don't know, not yellow, more green. We did all of those changes in a matter of seconds, truly seconds. If you wanted to do the equivalent workflow in batch, you could do it very fast, especially if you're a proficient flame artist. But I think there's absolutely no competition to the speed that you can work with the image node with the effects tab. Like it blows my mind how fast. And then let's say this is good now. We want to do that to another shot. It's the simple act of dragging it over to that shot, and immediately it's like 90% there. Sure, you have to like make some minor adjustments to get it in the right world, but oh man, it's already there. Like to me, like we can stop right now. We're done talking about the image node. There you go. That's the big selling point right there. It's huge. It's so important. And that's kind of what brings me back to it all the time. It's like you just got to know when it's needed. If you're in a finishing world and the client has you do something real specific, of course your first reaction is going to be to maybe jump into batch effects or batch to the shot in question and adjust it, re-render it, export it, get it back into the timeline. If you're not familiar with or comfortable with the image node, it wouldn't be something that you think about. But I'm here to tell you, and the whole point of all this is that this is just another tool that you can use if you're in that situation where you need to do something fast. And we're always in that situation where you got to do something fast. Yeah, that's I think the image node is worth looking into if you haven't yet. So with all of this in mind, I think the only other thing I wanted to mention, this is incredible, Andy. We got through
I
almost all
know
of it.
it's great. I want to slow you down. Actually, I think
Yeah.
what's really great about your description and what you're showing is like, again, I mean, I'm using myself as an example. I'm sure there are a bunch of people in the chat
Mm.
who feel the same way. You know, this was introduced, or presented as a color correct tool, and I went, well, I know how to color correct. I use the color corrector or the color warper, and I have my way, and it works. And if somebody asks me to do something, that's what I'm going to do. I've never really seen it presented in such a way that shows the value add. That's like it's
Mm.
ludicrously fast. And especially if you're
Yeah.
doing color across like either a spot or show or something like that, you can't. You'd be bouncing in and out of like batch effects constantly. You wouldn't be able to see, or it wouldn't be as easy to see things when you're trying to compare one shot to the next. It's really a wonderful
Mm.
presentation, man. I want to thank you. Love it.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
fact, I
So
got
really
our
the
friend
as
John
far
Ag.
as
Good morning or good afternoon, John. Says this
oh,
is true. Like it's like it matches their speed of resolve grading. It's just like
mm,
it's amazing. Good job.
yeah. For those of you who don't know, John is in Australia.
Oh,
John. Really, the only other general image node workflow thing that I wanted to cover was just how to select shots in this environment here, and it's a little bit
oh,
different
hey
than
Jeff.
normal in Flame. If you're, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, man. I lost your screen share. Would you mind trying to reconnect?
Oh, that's pretty weird.
Yeah, you had
Let's
dropped out a
reconnect.
little bit, like your connection. Let's bring that back. Here we go, and we're back.
Apologies.
Oh no.
And I see, you know what, before I get back into that, why don't I answer the question that Antonis asked? The answer is 100% yes. I have some tangent element panels that I use here at home from working from home. But I was a little bit spoiled when I was first testing the image node. I got the tangent arc, and oh man, that's as good as a panel as there ever is, I think. People who are real panel people might have strong opinions against the arc, but as someone who had never used a panel before, the arc is like a Lamborghini. It's fantastic. So the answer is yes, they absolutely work with the image node here.
Cool. Yeah, Brooks
So
concurs.
yeah. Um, so anyway, the last thing I wanted to talk about here, just in a general workflow sense, is just how to select shots. A little bit different from what you might be familiar with here. Like on the desktop, for instance, you're used to this little yellowish triangle, sorry, yellowish square around all of your clips. And when you multi-select, it's just a faded gray square around your clips. But when you select one of them again, it just does that one selection. So it works a little bit differently in the effects tab. You have the same yellow rectangle around the clip, but when you multi-select, you get the orange rectangle. And then when you single select, it allows you to maintain the selection while also uh, focusing your selection. So that's important for if you're sending one effect to multiple shots. It allows you to quickly and easily select things without losing your selection and get confused. Um, so this is great. Now we have a lot of time to show you what it looks like to use the image node. So if there's any questions, again, if you're looking to learn more about the image node in a more calm environment, that's why we invented our tutorial of the image node. So take a look at that. But for now, we're just going to go into what it looks like to use the image node, which is kind of like the good part of this. So here we go. Let's start talking about some beauty stuff first. So I'm just going to replace this desktop to get it fresh. I'm going to work on my sources sequence. And so the first beauty thing that I would love to talk about is this shot. Let's say our client notes are to reduce, and we don't need this other stuff here, to reduce the veins on this guy's wrist here. So pretty simple shot. Nothing too crazy, but hey, we're live and we want to get you guys home at a timely time. So we need a quick, nice and easy shot. So I'm just to talk you through what happened. I selected our number one selective here, and then I space G to start drawing a G mask. So I'm gonna just finish drawing this G mask. Quick and easy. Maybe add a little bit of softness here with A and then shift and drag. And I'm not gonna add the A2 beauty just yet. We're just gonna kind of like do the tracking first, and then we'll add the A2 beauty. So I got that I got that drawn, and now we will track. So just doing a quick planar track here. Nice. Not bad. Good track. Flame planar tracker. It works,
Yeah,
everybody. It
Flame
works.
Planer Tracker, honoring the farmers of America.
So we will now swap out our master grade, which comes by default, with an A2 beauty. And straight out of the gate, the default settings don't do much. So why don't we bump those up? So I'll just bump this right up to a higher value, maybe something like that. And then let's worry about the detail here, because I think we're losing a little bit too much. So change this detail here, maybe the size up a bit. And then the real one, the search radius, let's bump that up, and that gets bring some of our veins back without making it too overt. So I think that's feeling good. That's great. But the only problem here is it's over our little piece of wheat. So we have to create a holdout mat for that. So that's the simple act of just selecting that first selective again so that it makes sure that we're drawing in the right place. Space G one more time. And here, what happens is that when you are about to draw a shape, the image node treats this undrawn shape as a full frame of white. So it's as if the whole image is the G mask, which is, that's a fine, it's just a coding thing that they've done, but it's hard to work that way because it's kind of hard to see the edge because it's like blown out because of the blur. So F8 is the solution there. F8 kind of shows you what the G mask is looking at as its source. So that allows you to easily draw that shape. So that's a nice solution there. So with the F8 view, I will draw this shape, and then looking at the result again so I can get the axis. Gonna F8 one more time, and I'm prepared, so I know that this doesn't track well, so I'm just gonna do a little manual track here. And just 2 seconds to get that. That's probably, maybe one more keyframe. Maybe one more here. So that's probably fine. Just gonna add a little bit of softness, and then if I look at my result, I see that I have not yet set it to subtract mode, so now it's subtracting, and now it's looking, we're losing a little tiny details there, but I think I would be okay with this if I were doing this shot. So that's looking pretty good. And really that's that's the simple run through of a beauty shot. Not too much to it, but there's one more thing that I wanted to cover. Although, how are we doing on questions? Are there any questions in the chat that I
Yeah,
missed?
Valentine had a question. Let me bring it up here. That was, is there something like connect and conform just for the image node? Meaning that same sources can share the same image node grade and you can update it with sync.
Valentine, you're talking to the self-proclaimed connected conform expert, and now I don't want to be called an image node expert, but I'm the guy doing the tutorial on the image node. So, oh man, do I have some news for you? We'll cover that later because I've intentionally saved some time toward the end to be able to cover that. So the answer is yes, and I'm gonna hopefully make it pretty simple to see. So we'll get to that in a second. Valentine, I'm so glad you asked. Wow, is he paid to ask that question? The world might never know. So anyway, we just did a beauty shot, and there's just something that I really
Oh, sorry. That was me.
I'm so excited.
I
I
know.
have to I
Fingers
have
on the
to
trigger
show
for sound effects.
there's something about this selective workflow that we haven't mentioned that I think I mentioned it in the tutorial, but I cannot do this presentation without mentioning this. It's possibly the most important part of the selective workflow when it comes to beauty work. It's very important that you know this. This is one of the big selling points of why you would want to use this in a beauty workflow. Like color grading, no competition. Color grading, it makes sense. Beauty workflow, everyone has their own tool set that they use. Here's a good reason to use the selective workflow. Um, so you saw what we did. We kind of have our G mask. It's the key here. The coming attractions is it's right up against the edge. So if you've done beauty work before, you know that the edge is a touchy subject uh, for a reason that we'll talk about in a second. So what I've done here, again, I am wonderfully prepared. I've taken that shot and I've brought it into batch here. So I was, you know what? One tiny tidbit. If you go into the image node and save it, I did that before. You can actually load an image node. So if you find that you've started some work in the timeline, you got to bring it into batch. It's like 2 seconds away by saving the image node and then take that image node out, load the image node, load it, and then it comes in fresh with the G masks, the AT Beauty, everything that you did in there. So that's kind of a good tip. So that's how I got here. And I have the image node, and then I have the A2 Beauty node, just the same exact settings as what I have in the image node here. So 63, 24.5, all the same. Except, of course, because it's an image node, because it's an A2 Beauty matchbox by itself, it's of course affecting the whole image because that's what a node like this would do. So I've just taken out the exact same, that's the key, the exact same GMask tracer here that's doing the same thing, same holdout, and I'm just comping it together myself. So front, back, matte. And you can see something that if you've done beauty work before, you might be very familiar with, and it's that the edge is just a little bit too close. And if you look at the original here, you can see exactly why, because the blur is kind of contaminating that edge there, of course, because that's just the nature of what this beauty thing is doing. But let's look back to our image node, not doing that at all. The reason for that is selectives are not just a front, back, and matte operation. They do something a little bit more complicated than that. It's more of a front, back, and then strength. The matte is really just strength. So it's talking about the strength of this A2 Beauty effect. And you might have heard that before, but what it boils down to is what you're seeing here. When you're dealing with strength, when it gets to that edge, because the G mask doesn't go over the edge, the white part of this image is not factored into the beauty there. So I think that's a cool selling point for the selective workflow, that you don't have to be as careful with your edges because it's just a smarter way of doing this operation.
Yeah, it's great, man.
So
It's so overlooked. I know, and again, like going back to my example from earlier, just with myself, I remember first diving into the selective workflow, adding G masks, and going like, well, this doesn't work the way I expected it. Meaning, it's not an A over B, it's not a comp, you know.
yeah,
And then it kind of pushing off to the side that benefit of the strength fall off of whatever effect it is you're applying, and it's brilliant for this kind of stuff. So thanks for showing
yeah.
it.
Sure. And the only other thing that I have to mention is just the idea, and we go into detail about this in the tutorial. I'll just mention it here. And it's that with this in mind, sure, we could argue that the image node is maybe the smarter way to work for something like this, but I have to say it is hard to get mats out of the image node. You have to work in a different way. You have to work in action, and getting the mats out is not a quick one click solution. So I'm the first to admit, I like the image node more because of this whole strength thing. But if you need to uh, only affect like the veins, for instance, it's a couple more steps to be able to use the selective workflow compared to this more traditional workflow. So I can't just walk away without mentioning that. That's important to me. So that there, I mentioned it. The next step would be color grading. Let's talk about what it looks like to do some color grading. So I have this same timeline here, and it is just the ungraded footage. So we're just gonna quickly go, unless there's some other questions.
Valentine had another one, but I think it might be a follow-up to this. So why don't you do your connect and conform one first?
Yeah, well, we're gonna do some color grading, and then we'll get into the connect and conform, but it's gonna be related.
Okay,
So
cool.
that's good. So let's find a nice shot. Let's say this one of this guy. So I'm in the sources sequence here that I've created for our sequences. So I'm just gonna, just because when you're working with color grading stuff, I think it's important to work on a sources sequence that's representative of all the cuts. So we'll do that. We'll add our image node, and let's get to work. Let's maybe, for the sake of time, we'll cheat just a smidgen. I'm going to, and it's another thing that we haven't mentioned yet, so it's good. It's not cheating. It's a tutorial.
It's only cheating if you don't admit, right? that you've
So
prepared it ahead of time.
yeah. Oh, look at that. Let me go into a different one. I've already finished. That's my finished product. So one thing that I have to do is I have to make sure that I'm grabbing my. So we're going to grab a reference. Sorry, I didn't mention that, but we're going to grab a reference. So that's Control G, and this is going to be the guy reference. And the only thing that I have to do to be careful about is I need to do that inside the image node, because if I did that outside, then it would be HD, and then the size would be all funky. So anyway, that's a side note. So now here we are. I'm going to just do maybe let's go up into 3-up view, and we'll do a side-by-side comparison, and I'm going to compare it to the guy. So that's our goal. And straight out of the gate, you're never gonna have this in a color grading environment, but here we are. We're pressed for time, so I think it makes sense that we can have the exact what we're looking for, and then the ungraded version over here. So the first thing to mention is when we're using the compare tools here, we can see that they're in our scopes. They give us a nice overlay of the blue color is kind of what our reference is, and then the white is our current image. So straight out of the gate, I can see I'm going to start working in the primary tab here because it's pretty flat and not good for color separation. So I think it makes sense to do that in our primary as a basis for our keying and stuff. So I'm first going to just open up this saturation just a bit. And we can see if we look at the scopes that we're almost there. We're getting quite there. So I'm just going to open up a bit, and then we'll go into the tone. Well, we're already in the tone controls, and maybe just like bump up the highlights, maybe even the whites just a touch. Oh no, maybe we'll bring down the whites actually. So bring the highlights even higher, midtones a little bit more, and then the shadows need to come down. So that's matching our luminance values pretty nicely. So now that that's done in the primary layer, let's switch to selective number 1, and we'll get to the color matching part. So we'll start off maybe in the midtones here. We can see if we look at the vector scope on the right that maybe it needs to be more saturated. So let's bump up the saturation here, not too far. And then we can see that the wheat is a little bit too green. So why don't we
Still ripening, Jeff. It's ripening in the.
It's still ripening. That's right. Well,
under that beautiful yellow sun.
I do remember that. So maybe I'll focus on the wheat here with a G mask, and then I'll just try to get that less green. And so I'm just bringing the color wheel away from green to get that orange glow. And so why don't we stay organized here? So number 1 was the color balance. Number 2 here is going to be our wheat adjustment. Number 3, let's worry about his face. Oops, I made number 4. So let's see. I think I can be done comparing for now. So I'm just going to go into that single view, and his face is just so darn dark. So let's draw a G mask, feather it in, bring it up, and I'll just get a little key for his face just to make sure that's selected. There it is. So we'll blur it a bit just so it's not too noisy. Let's see if it needs to do any tracking. Maybe I'll do a tiny bit of tracking. So set a keyframe. That's all we need. something quick. And now we will turn off auto key and just brighten up that face a little bit, maybe balance it a bit so it's not as harsh. That's looking nicer. If we compare one more time, our sky is a little bit bluer, so why don't we focus on the sky, and we'll stay organized still. So this is face. So number 4, let's get a G mask for that sky. Maybe bring that out a little bit. Bring this out a little bit. Maybe get a key for that sky. There it is, pretty good. And we'll just desaturate it a bit, just like in the reference here. So let's see. I think the last step, from what I can see with my eyeballs, sky. Oh my God, sky is. I think his shirt needs some love there. So let's just worry about his shirt for a second. I think it needs to be a little bit brighter. And orange. There we go. Maybe yellow. Yeah. So that's looking. I think maybe their sun is a little bit brighter, but I think we matched it pretty nicely. And then the of course the before and after from the log, which is unfair. And I'm sure
Unfair,
Valentine,
but always satisfying.
it is very satisfying, isn't it? And to answer Valentine's question that I don't know if he's asked yet, we could do some color management here to get it in the right world to start. But this happens to have been shot on a Panasonic camera, and I looked into the color management settings, and it just wasn't so pretty. I think in this case, it might be easier to just work off of the log. And I think you understand what I'm saying when I say that. But anyway, so this is like my quick and dirty color grade from a flat image into a beautiful looking image. What was this last one? Oh yeah, it was a shirt. Ooh, let's fix that. That's not so good. Bring that in just a touch. Okay, so that was shirt. So the last step for this color grading workflow here is, let's see, it's pretty good. Maybe his shirt needs a track. Maybe we'll worry about that later. We're moving on to the next shot. As simple as this. Actually, you know what? Let's think about the next 2 shots. I've selected my first shot, control clicking on the next 2, just dragging that image node over, and immediately, I think there's a couple of things. We can probably get rid of the shirt. We can get rid of the, you know what? Let's leave the face and maybe just move it over. And I'll just do a little track for there. And just like straight out of the gate, pretty darn close. Next shot. Let's get rid of the shirt, get rid of the face. Straight out of the gate, pretty darn good. Again, this is kind of what we were talking about before. Can't really beat that in batch. I suppose you could do the work in batch effects and then drag batch effects to these different shots, but being able to swap back and forth, you can't do that in batch effects. This is why the image node and the effects tab was born, to do this, just this.
It's also nice to think about it like on top of your batch effect. If you think of the batch effects as a place where you're gonna make some kind of fix, you're gonna remove a logo off the shirt, or you're gonna do some other kind of retouch, and then on top of that is the color. That's kind of I've always kind of differentiated the workflow too.
Yeah, that's a great point. And another thing to keep in mind is just that you can go down a rabbit hole of like some of your work in batch effects, some of your work in image node. And if you're starting to like blur the line of what you're using your image node for, if you're doing some beauty work in image, then some compositing in batch effects, and then maybe some other beauty work, and it can be a lot to keep track of. So I'm the first to admit, you gotta understand the needs of your job. You gotta know, like, if you're gonna be handing it off to someone else, the last thing you want is for this to be confusing for someone else. So it's really all about understanding that the image node exists, that you can use it in the timeline. If the need arises that you can use it for a job, you can do it. Great. Let's just do one more little thing, and then we can talk about one frame of white, but we'll certainly pick up more in the Patreon's chat. I have a couple more things to show, that's for sure. So cool. The last thing that we got to show is just what Valentine was asking. So here I have no connected conform set up at all. The only thing that I have done is I have a sources sequence here, which is just simply created with this button in the conform tab. It analyzes all of your cuts, and it gives you the longest version of all the shots in one nice little timeline here. So even without the connected conform, because these are shared source segments, I don't need the connected conform because we're not dealing with batch renders that I'm replacing. So the beauty, Valentine, is even without the connected conform, you can just take these 3 shots that we worked on. I can see by right-clicking that they are used in, this shot is used in the 30. This shot is used in every version, the 30, the 15, and the 6. This shot is used in the same, all of them. Select them all, right-click on that image node, sync image to shared source segments. If I look back and I take a look at these cuts, it's highlighted. I can see that the image node has been sent to all of the different cuts that they exist. Very quick, very easy. As long as your sources are the same as they would be if you conform them at the same time. So that's the answer to that question, I think. Yes, it's very easy to do.
Sweet. Do we have time for one more question?
Great, great.
Kieran was wondering about getting a Z depth out of the image node. Is that something you can do, or is that something you need to do in action?
My knee-jerk reaction is action for sure, because getting anything out of the image node, if you want to get it out of the image node, you don't really do that. The image node is really just a standalone. You do the work in here, and what you get out of an image node is pretty much a flattened image. You don't get any mats out, including Z depth. So 100% you need to go to action for that. If you're thinking of using the image node as kind of an intermediary stage, not exactly made for that. I'd be happy to talk about how to do some of this stuff in action in the Patreon's chat or on the forums or on Discord, but no, the answer is no, not the image node.
All right, cool.
But,
Jeff,
yeah,
the accolades are coming in the chat, man. Everybody's loving this, by the way.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Yeah, I could go on and on and on, but hopefully we got through enough. I'm glad that we sped up in the beginning because we obviously ran out of time here at the end. But I think we have enough time for the one frame white stuff. I'm excited. You showed me a little bit of that, and I can't wait to see.
You got to tease. Dude, Jeff, this was amazing. Thank you so much for putting this together, and of course for the Logik Academy. But I think this is really a great way to give an overview and to get everybody excited about trying out the image node workflow and then diving into the Logik Academy tutorial put together. And again, Jeff's going to be on the patrons chat right after this. And he'll be answering more questions, showing more examples. And you can always find him on the forum. You can find him on Discord. Randy called out that you were admitting people into the Discord server while you were giving this tutorial, which is like amazing. Like it's the definition of multitasking. So thank you much, man. And
Sure.
I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. And we're going to move on to one frame of white.
Thank you very much.
All right, my friends. I'm excited about this. This is always like one of my favorite things. It's like a highlight of the year, the Logik year, is one frame of white. I have 8 entries this year to show you. We're going to give a little preview of them now. Here we go. These are presented in alphabetical order by title, okay? And right after the show, I'm going to turn these on the oneframeofwhite.com website, and we'll turn on the community voting on the forum. But here comes the first of our entries for this year. This is called AI Changes Everything by Mor Kamuves from Budapest, Hungary. I love it. I absolutely love it. Good job, Mor. I think you also really captured any creative conversation with Randy and I. That was wonderful. Thank you, man. Next up is something called Disassemble. This is by Dan McCarthy from Toronto, Canada. All right. I'm going to do a little applause here, and this will be for, we're going to listen to this for more as well. Okay. Moving on to number 3. Great job, Dan. It's called Flame On by our friend Ralph Scaglione from New Fairfield, USA. Thank you very much, Ralph. Flame on, my friend. All right. Next up is Logik Concept Car by Abel Milanese from Vancouver, Canada. Beautiful. All right, moving right along, sticking with the car theme, right? We have a Logik Race 2021 by Stephen Miller from London. Nicely done, Steven. And wait till you all take a look at the setups for these too. I mean, like the attention to detail. I don't know if you were able to catch it, but like the textures that were like on the glass going through we went through the window, and like it's all procedural. It's all done in the setup. It's just, they're absolutely incredible. Next up is Relics by Michael Wardner from Pine Lake, USA. Love it. Nice job, Michael. Next up is the Logik demo by Antonis Natellis from Athens. I know I saw Antonis on the chat. Beautiful job. And finally, the Render Dome Bandit by Adam Taylor from Backup in the UK. I love it. The water bottle. I love it. Great job, man. And I can't say enough. Like the setup. That's one of the my favorite thing about One Frame of White is that we share all the setups too. You know, if you go to the website oneframeofwhite.com, you'll be able to download the setups. I just wanted to show you some of the schematics. I believe this one here was the very first one by Moore. The AI changes everything. Yes, chat bubbles. Just so you know, the setups are just unbelievable. This is the Logic race. Every one of those Lego dudes is done with like 3D shape, and I just on the right I just kind of zoomed in to the little compass on the left there, just so you can see how detailed. And then each one of the action nodes has compasses as well. They're just like, oh, Randy, we have a section on the forum I think for this stuff, right? For great setups. Each one of these is more like beautifully laid out than the next, but just really, really amazing, amazing stuff. Let's give a round of applause to all of our entrants, all of our contestants. Right after the show, you'll be able to go to oneframeofwhite.com to see the entries and download the setups if you'd like. And you'll be able to vote for your favorite at forum.logic.tv. We take the community vote, we add it in with the judges' scores, and that determines the order of our winners for next week. Congratulations to everybody. The winners are going to be revealed next Sunday, December 12th. Thank you to all of our contestants, and thank you to the judges. We've got a big show planned for next week. We're going to have the judges on. We're going to have the contestants on. And Grant Kay is going to be co-hosting with me. So, Randy, we've created 45 points of failure. It's going to be an amazing live experience, I'm sure, as always. But thank you. That's One Frame of White, everybody. I think now what I'm going to do real quick is give away a couple of prizes. We'll spin the wheel. The first thing is going to go, the theme is hats. The first thing we're going to give away is the Logic Winter Hat. Right. And that is going to Maury Rosenfeld. Congratulations, Maury. I don't remember where you live, Maury, but if you happen to live in an area that climate-wise a winter hat wouldn't work out, I'll sub it for a baseball hat. Just let me know. Next up is a Logic baseball hat, and that's going to Frank. Congratulations. And last but not least, we have a 1-year license of optics from our friends at Boris FX. Let's spin the wheel one more time. Round and round it goes. Josh Lawrence. Congratulations, Josh. Congratulations. You know, Brian's going to kill me, but I'm going to give away 2 licenses of optics this week. Kino. Congratulations, Kino. Congratulations, everybody. I'm going to be sending you out emails to let you know about your prizes. That is, what a day. What a day. What a Logic Live. First, let me just get Jeff back on here. Jeff, thank you very, very much. This was absolutely amazing. The chat is loving it. It's wonderful. Oh, Frank's asking a perfect question. What is baseball? I'll follow up with you, Frank, and then give you my brief description of it. Jeff, thank you again very much, man. Absolutely brilliant demo, and thanks for all that you do for the Logic community as well.
Thank you. I had a great time. I'm scrolling up, and I feel bad that I couldn't get to all the questions, but that's why we have all these other places we can talk about this stuff, huh?
Bingo. Yep. If feel free, we're gonna right after this, we're gonna jump over to that patrons chat. If anybody would like to get in on it, just sign up. As a patron, you could be the 100th patron, by the way. Get yourself a hat, and I'll send you the link, and you can join the chat. So I'm going to wrap this up, and we'll head on over to the patrons Q&A. Well, we already did prize time. Coming up next week on Logic Live, as I said, is Sunday, December 12th at 2 p.m. is our One Frame of White show, co-hosted by our friend Grant Kay. We're going to have all the judges on. We're going to have almost all the contestants on. It's going to be a great time. We've got a bunch of prizes to give away. Stay tuned for an email about all that. And that's going to be followed up on Sunday, December 19th. We're going to do the Logic 2021 Holiday Extravaganza. I hope everybody will be able to join us for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. A nice little year in review. A great wrap up to an amazing year. If you haven't signed up for the forum, please do at forum.logic.tv. Thank you, Randy McEntee, for making that a possibility and keeping it going. And be sure to join the conversation on the Discord channel, Discord server. Just go to logic.tv or forum.logic.tv. Rather, click on the Discord link at the top and get in on the real-time conversation. As you can see, Jeff will let you in, which you can even do during his demo live. This episode of Logic Live will be available on logic.tv later today. If you haven't already subscribed to our 2 podcasts, please do. There's Ask a Flame Artist. Submit your questions to logic.tv/askaflameartist, and Randy and MBME will answer them for you. And then we have the Logic podcast. The current episode that's out is episode number 20, The State of Logic and Logic Hive Minds with Randy, Renee, Tim, and MBME. Next week, I'm going to be releasing one with our friend Jeff Kyle. So if you haven't subscribed to the Logic podcast, please do. You can get them anywhere podcasts are available. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher, just to name 3. Randy, I have to update this. We're up to 1.24 thousand subscribers. We're getting close to 1.25 thousand, which I know is a stated goal of yours. Thoughts and prayers. Thank you to all of our patrons. None of this will be possible without you. And just a reminder, our US-based Logic members can save 10% off all Intuos Pro tablets from Wacom. Just go to bit.ly/WacomLogic and use the code Logic10 at checkout. Save 10% on any Logic merch using Logic10 at checkout. That's all the way through the end of the year. And if you need tech support, call Jack Horrocks, jack@flametech.com.au for all your tech needs. And remember the Logic discount code from Boris FX. Save 15% on any Boris FX product, standalone or subscription, when you use the code Logic-15 at checkout. Thank you, AJA, and thank you, Synesys, for making it all possible. That's going to do it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you all next time.